Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another wonderful biology class. I'm super glad you're here. And today we're going to look at meiosis and sexual reproduction. Today's focus question is, what are the stages of meiosis and how does meiosis provide genetic variation? Genetic variation. Variation means change or difference. So how does meiosis provide changes and variation in the genetics is what that's asking. Quite a bit of new vocabulary, and it's going to be a two-part lecture, so it's not slow down at all. Gene, homologous chromosome, gamete, haploid, fertilization, diploid, sex chromosome, autosome, meiosis, crossing over, telomere or telomere, karyotype, non-disjunction, cell differentiation, and finally stem cell. All great stuff. So let's get to that focus question. Oh, we've already had the focus question. We need to get to the review vocabulary. And the review vocabulary is one we used in the last lecture, our last class, and that's chromosome. And chromosome is tightly packed DNA in a structure that is designed or made to be separated during some kind of cell division. So all cells contain genetic information, from bacteria, prokaryotes, all the way up to eukaryotic organisms like yourself. They all have a fundamentally central program that runs that cell. The instructions for traits are generally called alleles, and they exist on chromosomes. And by traits, we mean things like eye color, height, bone density. Whether you're male or female could be considered a type of trait, and it's determined by your chromosomes. Okay, and so all of this information is stored in chromosomes. The DNA on chromosomes is arranged into genes. I called them alleles. We'll talk about alleles in the next unit, sorry. This information is arranged in genes, and these genes, again, are the instructions for traits. They create proteins that then are used to make other things that allow a cell to be specialized into one type of cell, or for it to produce a type of protein that makes your skin dark, right? Melanin. So all of these things are controlled by genes and other things. There's actually a little bit more to DNA than just genes, but that's for AP Bio, and we'll just keep moving. Each chromosome consists of hundreds of genes and a whole bunch of DNA that's not gene coding, and it all works together to produce these traits, these different characteristics that exist in the whole of an organism called its phenotype. And so the genes contain the instructions, that's your genotype, and once that genotype is expressed, that's what you are, and that's your phenotype. And we'll talk a lot more about those terms in the next unit as well on genetics. So prior to meiosis, your cell duplicates its DNA, just like it does for the normal cell cycle, and it creates what are called homologous chromosomes. And these are pairs of chromosomes. You have 24 chromosomes, and you have 23 chromosomes, and you have two pairs, so you have 46 total, okay? And these pairs of chromosomes, 23 pairs of chromosomes, make up the complete genetic instructions for who you are. And you get half from your father, 23 from your chromosomes from your father, and half of your chromosomes from your mother during what's known as fertilization. Okay, and that's the process of sexual reproduction. Now, homologous chromosomes have the same type of genetic information, roughly speaking, in the same places. Okay, the same genes or alleles in generally speaking, the same location on your chromosomes. And so this brings us to the idea of haploid and diploid cells. And the study of genetics, the cell type known as a gamete is what the sperm is, or what an oocyte or egg is. Okay, and they are haploid. They have half the genetic information needed for a full-grown organism. So let's say a grasshopper has 28 pairs of chromosomes. It will create sperm cells that have 28 pairs. It'll just have 28 chromosomes. It'll have half. It'll be a haploid cell. And then after it merges with an egg cell, it will be a diploid cell. It'll have 2 pairs, 2 exact copies of the same chromosomes. Now, the chromosomes won't be exactly the same, but they'll have the genetic information roughly on the same location. And that's basically, that is a source of genetic variation. It's not all the sources, but which haploid or which chromosomes you get from your mother and which chromosomes you get from your father will lead to genetic variation because of what's known as independent assortment, where as a gamete is being produced, which chromosome goes to which cell happens randomly. Now, fertilization, as I said, again, is just the union of 2 gametes, a sperm cell and a oocyte, or a spermatozoa, and an egg. And when those fuse, you get 2N, that's diploid, for your number of chromosomes. Whereas your gametes are just N, or 1N, because they have half the genetic information for a complete organism. Now, sex determination is done by 2 specific chromosomes, or 1 specific pair of chromosomes known as sex chromosomes, the 23rd pair of chromosomes. And generally speaking, if you have 2 X chromosomes, then you are a biological female. And if you have an X and a Y chromosome, you are a biological male. Now, you can also get some genetic disorders, which lead to what's known as hermaphrodism, where you have both male and female sexual characteristics. But again, this is a genetic disorder where you might have 2 X's and a Y, or only 1 X, or maybe 3 X's, and oftentimes results in sterility and can be rather heartbreaking. Now, all of the other chromosomes in your body that are not sex determining are known as autosomes, and they control just about everything else in your body systems. Though even things that are on your sex determining chromosomes, for example, color vision, can be affected by those sex determining chromosomes, right? And we'll talk about some of those genetic disorders in a little bit. So, gametes are formed during the process of meiosis, which is a type of cell division that, instead of leading to 2 exact duplicate copies at the end, results in either 4 spermatozoa or 1 oocyte with 1 N chromosomes, so half the genetic information for a complete organism. And a cell with 2 N chromosomes will produce 2 gametes. So what you have to happen prior to meiosis is you have to take your double pair of chromosomes and you have to double it. So going into meiosis, you have not just 1 pair of chromosomes, you have 2 pairs of chromosomes. And those will get whittled down into 2 daughter cells that have 2N. And then those 2 daughter cells will get whittled down into 4 daughter cells that have 1N. So now let's look at just the first half of the process of meiosis. And just like a normal regular cell, it starts with interphase. Okay, but then it enters into prophase 1. And prophase 1 looks an awful lot like prophase from mitosis. Okay, only as the chromosomes line up, a process known as crossing over can occur. And what happens during crossing over is genetic material is swapped between homologous chromosomes. So, in addition to the independent assortment that happens when your chromosomes randomly go to a gamete, you also get a lot of genetic variation because your father's chromosomes, and he has one from his father and one from his mother, of each of the chromosomes, well, those will shuffle like a deck of cards and create entirely brand new chromosomes from that genetic information. And that's what the process of crossing over is. And if you look at this, what would happen is if you have these two chromosomes here, a protein scaffold forms between the chromosomes, and genetic information from the same gene or allele will get swapped. And again, that winds up creating brand new chromosomes. Then you go to metaphase 1, where all your chromosomes are lined up, just like metaphase and mitosis. And anaphase occurs, and telophase occurs, just like in mitosis, and you wind up with two daughter cells that have 2N genetic information. So just like a normal cell, they split down from 4N to 2N. But again, they're going to undergo another cell division. And that is what we're going to talk about in the next lecture. So I have some questions for you. If you have questions for me, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in just a